take this opportunity of introducing my guest, Mr. Cuthbert Phillip, an individual who I've had here before. Mr. Phillip was an ex-chief, ex-commissioner of police, and today a farmer. So I'm actually killing two birds with one stone by having Mr. Phillip here with me today. St. Lucia, I now address a couple of questions to my guest, Mr. Phillip. Cuthbert, you are a retired commissioner of police. You are now a farmer. Both organizations today are encountering difficulties. There are conflicting signs which require clarification. The Prime Minister is the Commander-in-Chief of St. Lucia, though the Governor-General constitutionally is head of the police force. Therefore, the PM can pass on whatever instructions he so wishes. There are a couple more questions I have for you, but I want to deal with that part of the question because you have served in that capacity, and there's no better person who can just explain to the public how this whole situation works. Cuthbert, if you could just cast a little light on what I've just mentioned.
Michael, as you've said, and I'm on your show here today, and I can tell the public today, I'm not looking into any political direction, whether red, whether yellow, whether blue, whether green. As a St. Lucian, and as one who the St. Lucia government paid, and I can tell you that I was one of the highest trained police officers in the region. Although the St. Lucia government didn't directly pay for my training, the British government did. Almost all my training in policing came from the British government and the American government also.
While you were in St. Lucia, or did you go
While
abroad?
I was in St. Lucia, my training was done at the... I started... Imagine I did my initial training in Crewe, in Chester. You know? Then I came back. I went to Bramshill twice. I went to the International Police Academy in Washington. And I did police training almost all over the world, whoever was given training. So a lot of money was spent on my training as a police officer. And in there, I also was able to spend about 20 years in the police force as an officer, because a cadet officer was a gazetted officer. And so I did 20 years as an officer in the police force. But historically, when you look at the police force, going way back in the days of fellas like James and Nichols and Scholar and the McGowan area, all that history about the police force is there. It's there for everybody to see and read. And I can tell you things have not changed really, you know, historically within the police force. Because one of the things we have had within the police, and especially within the officer rank, there had never been a united officer corps. Even during the days of Cannon came from outside. But even the local guys at that time, right, the inspectors and the sergeants and everything, never gave some of these commissioners, you know, the backing and the support which they deserved. Now, guys like Cannon, these were strong guys and everything, and these guys would not have allowed the fellas to run for them. But you remember with the Magoon situation, Magoon had to leave.
Yes.
You see? So, if you follow that history, there has been a lot going on over the years, and we have had commissions of inquiry upon commissions of inquiry. But one of the things that has happened with these commissions of inquiry, none of these governments in the past, and I can show you the history of it, have never actually sat down
and implemented.
And not only implement, but take the necessary action to correct the ills in the police department.
Cuthbert, I'm going to say something. You are so right. I distinctly remember, I think it was during your regime, Compton brought in Carl Hudson Phillips to do
the report.
A report. Do you remember that?
Could you imagine? The Carl Hudson Phillips report had everything to do with my running the force.
Let me say
the
something.
Commander and the superintendent of the force.
I'll give you a bit of a little history, but a joke. When that report was completed, they paid $3 million for that report. And I distinctly recall that Sir Vincent Flosac was Governor General. And one day, Sir Vincent called me to Government House and asked me whether I would join him for a cup of tea. And I went up and I had a cup of tea with him. But it was all planned. While I was there, he said to me, I'm going to show you something very interesting today. And around 3:30 that afternoon, this black limousine, followed by another black limousine, drove up to Government House. And they came out and Sir Vincent went out. And he was receiving the Carl Hudson report that day. The cars were unloaded and they were taken into Government House. And on each box was a heading of what was in that box. So Sir Vincent checked it and he signed as having received it. When the cars left, I said to him, what is the next step? He said to me, into the archives, never to be read. Can you imagine that? $3 million. So one has to pose the question, these inquiries or commissions that they put into place, I think most politicians just play for time because they do those things and hoping that the public will forget everything and life moves on. Does that make any sense?
Well, I can tell you, Mike, on that note,
yes,
the Carl Hudson Phillips had to do with me.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, the Carl Hudson Phillips report came about because I, as the commissioner, had gone to Sir John and told Sir John, I cannot run the Royal St. Lucia Police Force because of certain civil servants or being on the back of the commissioner. Whether it was coming from the political directorate or not, but I was getting the message through civil servants. And I stood up and I told Sir John that he has to decide what he's going to do with the force, because I'm not prepared to serve and I am being pressured in the manner I've been pressured. You know, and then he said to me, he is going to appoint the commission. He said, Phillips, I've had enough of this. I am going to appoint a commission to look into that police force and to decide what I'm going to do with it. But true enough, he did. I welcome it. I gave all the evidence. As a matter of fact, I gave the commission piles and piles of documents. Do you know, up to a day like today, I have never seen a copy of the Carl Hudson Phillips report, which resulted in my being retired in the public interest. And I have never to date seen the report.
So that seems like it's a political pattern.
So, and it's not only the first report. I can go way back, and it shows that time and time, and it doesn't matter which government, the same thing goes on. And over the years, I am of the opinion that the politicians have not treated the police force of St. Lucia and give it the attention that it really deserves.
Tell me something.
But except one prime minister, I must say, who at that time, I don't know because of age or because of what, looked at the report called the Hillwood Report. And it was Mikey Pilgrim, maybe because too that, I don't know if during the time of Alan Louisi having been a judge, that is the only police report I know of that had been given some kind of attention. Not 100%, but at least almost 80 to 85% of that report.
Okay, question for you, Cuthbert. Why do you think that has happened and continues to happen?
I really and truly, over the years, as I say, I cannot put my finger on it. The only person who could answer these things are the politicians themselves, you know. And I think one of the persons which I should really ask this question or direct this question to would be somebody like Mikey Pilgrim. Because having been in the political arena, he would more be able to say, well, look, fellas, this is why we did not give the police the attention that it deserves. I am not saying that some action has not been taken, but too often
limited.
The action that is being taken is a plaster.
Got you.
You see? And again, one of the things within the force, and a lot of these commission of inquiry, and they have been told, Michael, when these things come about, whether it's in the police or otherwise, you have to call what you call a strong man. When the recommendations are made, and you say, you see what is recommended there, I'm appointing this strong man to see to it that this thing is implemented.
St. Lucia, this is Open Mike. We have just come to the end of the first segment of our program. We'll be right back. Bye.